Okay, 1, 2. Hello, everyone. My name is Eunan Kelly. I work for a company called CD&E Group in Northern Ireland, and I'm here to talk about creating valuable in-spec products from waste materials. We'll just go through why we recycle, how we recycle, the applications and solutions, and some examples. I just want this to be a more of a high-level presentation with ideas that should dispel some of the myths around reusing recycled materials in construction applications. So why do we recycle? One of our customers, Sasha Bodeman, CEO of Sodextra in Paris, says our customers are increasingly concerned about the environment. By producing recycled materials, we are contributing to the circular economy and to a sustainable development. Just to put a little bit of context about the way we use natural materials currently today in the world, if the Earth's history was compared to a calendar year, the present-day human have existed for 23 minutes, and in the last 0.2 seconds, we have used 33% of the world's natural resource. So I think that just gives an example of what we're doing and how quickly we are exhausting natural resource. And we're maybe under the impression that natural resource is infinite, and it's not. I think we all know that, and we're well aware of that at the moment. From the world's counts, this little screenshot tells us that we need 1.8 Earths to sustain what we're doing today. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't believe we have found any more Earths yet, so we need to be more conscious about what we're doing and how we're doing it. The trend is going upwards. We're using sand and aggregates more and more. Everything we do, everyone has a smart device on their phone or in their pocket. We're using sand for that. Somebody made a comment one time, if it hasn't grown naturally, the construction industry has put it there. And just on your way home, or even sitting in this wonderful exhibition centre, take a look around and see what sand has been used for and how it has contributed to the building and the construction of the infrastructure around us. Some of that infrastructure is the railways, the roads, the buildings, the sky-rise offices that we all have come so accustomed to. And according to the UEPG, we consume about 6 tons per capita per year in Europe, and we create 2 tons of waste. Now, 36% of all the waste generated in Europe is construction and demolition waste. And we've got very used to reusing our coffee cups and reusing our plastic or shopping bags and reusing multiple different things, but we're still not totally comfortable with reusing the biggest contributor to waste in Europe. Excuse me. This is probably the one slide that you will all go home with, thinking about and commenting. If anyone's having a drink tonight in Munich, you'll be able to reel off this fact. Illegal sand extraction is number 3 in the estimated transnational crimes. It ranks just under counterfeiting and drug trafficking. So illegal sand extraction is a huge, huge business. And the reason is, again, back to the notion of we're using so much of it and we need so much of it. So how can we turn this waste into a usable product? Well, first of all, we come from a very linear industry. We use, we extract, we use, and we dispose. And recycling, yeah, the name recycling is a very common word, but it's not actually strictly putting stuff back into reuse. It's maybe taking something that had one purpose and reusing it on another purpose. But I think the construction demolition material can be kept in the construction industry circular and reused over and over again, just like our coffee cups and just like our shopping bags. So we need to get away from that idea that we can extract, dispose, and reuse. Keep it in the loop. And to do that, we have to consider, as a company, as a wet processing company, we have to consider the problems that that may arise with this type of material coming in. The type of material that I'm talking about, your typical excavation, and it does look like waste. It doesn't look like much here, and nobody would place much value on it as it sits in some of these pictures. But this material can be reprocessed, resized, and made into a construction-grade aggregate for use in many, many applications. Just flick through some of those. I think the point of this picture is that we are creating huge voids in the earth, and the backfill rule, or the backfill acknowledgement, allows us to refill those holes again, but really we're still putting that beyond use. We're not keeping it circular, we're not keeping it in the industry. So we have to get away from that. We have to turn materials like this into products that are acceptable, usable, and have a real purpose in the construction industry. But we have to consider the contaminations that exist. So the plastics, the asphalt, the wood, steel, paper, carbon, etc., etc. As a business, as a wet processing business, we have to understand, we do understand that, and we know then that there's a process to go through to enable this material to come back out as an acceptable product to be reused again. The how, some of our typical and less primitive processing plants or equipment usually produce a low value product. They fail to remove all of the impurities, and they lower the brand value of recycled material. And that's critical, a critical comment, because the brand perception of recycled material, or anything that's recycled, is always lower, because recycled is seen as still a negative connotation. So we have to consider the lightweight removal, the organics removal, the high fine content, and the clay contamination that exists within this material to remove it, to make it useful. This is an example from Stockholm, Sweden, where we were asked to take a look at the material, incoming material, and see if we could produce a construction aggregate for them, a 0 to 8 concrete sand. So I'm going to just draw your eye straight to the bottom line. Bottom line is the fines content, the 0.63 or the 63 micron, the 0.63 millimeter. This is typically the material we want to remove to enable a more efficient or a more cost-effective concrete production. But as you can see from this example, there's quite a fluctuation from 30.5% to 10.3%. That void creates a problem for us, or that differential creates a massive problem for any processing plant. We have to remove it, and we have to try and produce a stable, consistent output product from something that's not stable and not consistent. The example on the right-hand column is we draw an average, and that's just for our technical team to understand what the average of that material looks like and to size the equipment. But I'm not going to go too much into the equipment or how we do it or anything else. It's more a high-level presentation on what we can do and how we can do it. So again, we have multiple different steps of processing available for this type of material. And if we start off with a really standard one single pass of a cyclone and a wet processing plant, we can see that the lines represent the table that we've seen before, and we can see the dotted lines are the specification this customer wanted to see or wanted to receive, and the red, blue, green, and yellow lines are the product or the materials that we sampled. So as you can see, still way outside the band limits, and not very consistent, not very appealing to a concrete manufacturer, concrete producer. If my truck was coming down with a load of sand to produce concrete, the concrete producer is going to be thinking, well, which sand am I getting today? And I have to adjust my concrete washing plant, have to change the mix. So that's problematic. Again, lowering the value, the brand value of recycled material. So, introducing another stage or another step in the process, we're able now to start to deal with this. We remove it from the desired product. So we don't need it in the desired product. We take that away and it's a secondary application product. And we're now starting to get very close into the limits. And this is close to the optimal processing solution that we have. But we have innovation within that can correct it even further. And now you're starting to see these same lines are almost one on top of the other. Now we have a product where the concrete manufacturer, the concrete producer is saying, there's Eunan's lorry coming down with sand. I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm getting an in-spec material. These are all products produced from the same recycling plant. If I was to produce a wet sieve analysis of the sand and laid it side by side with a natural sand, possibly 50% of the people listening would be able to guess which one was which, and that's just by law of averages. There's no real difference because the technology today allows us to produce this in-spec material. Just some pictures and examples of what we're doing. Very often you hear the comment that, but we can't use that material or recycled material in this application, or we can't use it in this application, almost as in a defense of not doing it. But when you think that 75% of all concrete in the world is non-structural, used in the world is non-structural, and 50% of it is less than 25 Newton meters strength, I don't believe that there's any application within those two, or certainly this, that a recycled material couldn't do. And if we think about it this way, if we can reuse construction demolition waste in 50% of our applications, then we extend the life of the planet's materials by 50%. But we can go beyond. We have people producing structural concrete from recycled materials and beyond. Some more of the applications, or some of the applications, building blocks produced in the UK, the permeable sand under concrete paths or the patio areas, concrete flooring, asphalt, and the retaining blocks. Some of the added value products, some of the products that will benefit from using the recycled material and preserving our natural resources. Non-concrete or non-binded materials, and of course we have clean layer stones, cable and pipe bedding, drainage stone, permeable underlay, and road-based material. And I don't believe anybody could argue that those applications could and should be fulfilled with recycled material, given how low a value it is, or how low of a requirement it is. We're still, the intention or the habit is that we still use really top-class virgin aggregates for a production application or a construction application that don't really need it. This all aligns to the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Every country in Europe have signed up to that. There's a drive, there's metrics, there's targets behind that, and I truly believe that by doing what we're saying we can do, we can add to these metrics and we can really contribute to them and help the UN achieve their Sustainable Development Goals. Some of the companies and the people using the CD&E wash plants for their applications listed down right across the world, and I'll draw your attention to some of the certificates and certifications produced or achieved by our customers. So we have CE markings, we have construction applications, and other CE markings for the building blocks and for their concrete sand. So we have taken the challenge, we have washed, we have produced, and we have been certified for the use in construction markets. Just a wee bit about who is CD, who are that our product, our plants, our customers are washing over 20 million tons per year of C&D and excavated soils. That's well over 100 million tons that we have diverted from landfill in the last 15 or 16 years as we continue to grow our business. That's 10,000 tons every hour, with 80 to 100% depending on the customer and the geology of that material being recovered and diverted from landfill. And we have in excess of 150 plants working and divert material from landfill all over the world. Some of the examples of this happening, dotted throughout the world, good global coverage. So it's not a local issue. It's not something that it's happening in this part of the world, but it's not happening here. We can't do that because of legislation or something. There are people from all corners of the world making this happen. New York, Pacífico, Long Island, taking in waste, contaminated soils, construction, demolition, excavation waste, and reproducing materials for the concrete and asphalt markets. some of the not so nice feed material stock. Some of the output products. Veldapuk, Norway, the world's largest CD&E recycling plant. Egil Velde and the company installed this 7 years ago, producing 300 to 400 tons per hour of material diverted from landfill. The Sheehan company, I've mentioned them earlier, and I'll mention them again when we see the building block slide. Sheehan's in Oxford in the UK. Sheehan's are producing a CE-marked building block. 60% 10 mil, 40% of grit sand to 0.4, 10 mil of Ultima admixture, and 180 kgs of cement. Interestingly, the UK requirement is 7.2 Newton meter strength, and Chris and the team are achieving 13 Newton meter strength from this concrete mix. And it could go much higher, but the blocks become a little bit more or less workable. Down to the other side of the world then, we have Repurpose It in Melbourne, who are in the crowd with us. Repurpose It in Melbourne, again, a pioneer in Australia, diverting materials from landfill every single day, but more importantly, putting that back into the construction industry. Rail ballast, contaminated soils, construction demolition waste, excavation waste. The plant is designed and built to handle that. Closer to where we are today, we have HDB. The plant has been named the most innovative recycling plant in the EU, and that was been confirmed by 20 or 40 EU specialists. There'll be a little bit more about the HDB project on stand, on the CDE stand, and later this week. Tomorrow we have a roundtable discussion with some of the HDB people joining us on the stand for that. Folks, as I said, it was going to be a bit more high level, more to dispel the myth that it can't be done. I didn't want it to be too engineering or too self-centered, more to help people understand what's achievable when you use the right technology, highly innovative technology to produce materials that are in spec for a construction market. And if anybody has any questions, I'll take them now. Very quiet audience. I noticed there wasn't many questions the last time, so I was quite happy about that. But feel free if you have any. No? All good? Thank you.